Welcome to Pain in the Grass, the official Lawn Pride podcast, where we dig deep into the real problems hiding in your yard. From weeds to grubs to mystery brown spots, we've got the dirt. Let's grow better together. Welcome to Pain in the Grass, the official Lawn Pride podcast, where we dig deep into the real problems hiding in your yard. From weeds to grubs to mystery brown spots, we've got the dirt. Let's grow better together.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so thrilled to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
So, if you are looking out at your lawn right now, noticing the weather shifting a bit, maybe feeling a little surge of pride about how green everything is starting to look.
It is that time of year.
It is. But you might want to brace yourself because today we are focusing on a stack of turf and pest management research centered right here in North Carolina, and we are going deep underground.
Way underground.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about the hidden subterranean world of your turf, and specifically the silent destroyers known as grubs.
Right, the stuff of homeowner nightmares.
Exactly. Our mission today is to uncover exactly what is dismantling that beautiful spring lawn from the bottom up. We're getting into the biological mechanisms at play and how to deploy a professional level strategy to actually stop it.
What's fascinating here is that we tend to look at a lawn and just see a static carpet.
Right, just a flat green surface.
Yeah, a two-dimensional aesthetic feature of the house. But just below the surface, in the top few inches of the soil, it is a complex, highly active battleground.
A battleground, I like that.
The life cycles playing out right under your feet are literally dictating the survival of the landscape above. It is a constant, invisible tug of war between the root system of your grass and an army of insects that rely on those exact roots to survive and multiply.
And survive they do, often at the complete expense of the yard. I mean, let's set the stage by defining the enemy here. The term grub gets thrown around a lot in gardening circles.
Oh, constantly.
It's almost like a catch-all phrase for any creepy crawly thing you dig up in the dirt.
Yeah, people see a worm and call it a grub.
Right. But looking through this research, a grub isn't just one specific bug, is it? It's a general term for the larvae of several different types of scarab beetles.
Exactly.
And they all share that very distinct plump C-shape and that creamy white color.
That's right. To the untrained eye, if you turn over a shovel of dirt and see one, they all look identical. Just these white, fleshy little blobs.
Fleshy little blobs. Gross.
They live entirely below the soil surface during this larval stage. And their primary biological imperative is to consume turf grass roots.
I guess eat and eat.
Basically.
Yeah.
They need to build up the fat reserves they need to complete their development. They essentially sit in the dark, gorging themselves, weakening the structural integrity of your lawn until they emerge as adult beetles in the late spring or summer.
Wow.
But while they might look the same, the nuances between the species found in North Carolina are incredibly important.
Because they don't all act the same, right?
Exactly. You really have to know exactly whose life cycle you are trying to disrupt if you want to save the turf.
So let's get into that lineup. The research highlights a few major players, and I know the Japanese beetle is usually public enemy number one.
It is definitely one of the most destructive. The Japanese beetle, or Popilia japonica, is a masterclass in being a dual threat. The adults are those metallic green and copper beetles you see swarming later in the summer.
Oh, I know them. They look like tiny, shimmering jewels.
They do, but they are ruthless defoliators.
Yeah, they just wreck things.
They will completely skeletonize the leaves of your expensive ornamentals and roses above ground. But long before they take to the skies to ruin your garden, their larvae are below ground doing just as much damage.
To the roots of the grass.
Right. Causing extensive thinning in those ugly brown patches.
And then joining them in the classic root-eating category, we have the masked chafer beetles and the May or June beetles.
Yes. The masked chafers are relatively small, scarab beetles, but their larvae are incredibly aggressive feeders.
Aggressive how?
They are frequently the specific culprits responsible when a lawn completely loses its anchor to the soil.
Like it just lets go.
Exactly. And the May and June beetles are the ones most people have a nostalgic connection to.
Ooh, the June bugs.
Yeah, those heavy, clumsy June bugs that constantly bump into your porch lights or screen doors on warm summer nights.
Slack, slack against the glass.
Right. They seem totally harmless, almost comical when they're flying around.
Bumbling around, yeah.
But their larvae are severe root feeders. They are doing massive structural damage down in the dark before they ever take flight.
Wait, so are all of these grubs just sitting down there chewing on roots like corn on the cob?
Well,
Because reading further into the stack, it seems like there are a few oddballs in the mix that operate completely differently.
that is a great distinction.
Mm-hmm.
No, not all grubs are strict root eaters. The green June beetle is a perfect example of a biological curveball.
A curveball.
They're quite different from the classic white grubs.
Hmm.
Their larvae actually feed primarily on decaying organic matter.
Like what?
Thatch, dead grass, compost. And only loosely on the living roots.
Okay, if they are eating the living roots, why are they such a problem?
It comes down to their movement. The green June beetle larvae are massive, and they are incredibly active burrowers.
Oh, so they move around a lot.
They don't just sit in one place. They constantly tunnel up and down in the soil profile, creating these miniature mole mounds all over the surface of the yard.
Ugh, that sounds awful.
It completely wrecks the evenness of the lawn and destroys the soil structure. It's essentially like having a fleet of tiny bulldozers constantly churning up the dirt just beneath the grass canopy.
So they're uprooting the turf mechanically rather than consuming it.
Exactly.
That sounds infuriating. And speaking of unusual tactics, I was looking at the notes on the sugarcane beetle.
Ah, yes.
They are listed here as highly damaging, but they apparently act like little lumberjacks. What is their deal?
The sugarcane beetles are fascinating because they aren't true white grubs, but they make the turf-damaging list because of their unique feeding habits.
Okay.
The larvae might occasionally snack on some roots, but the adults are the real menace here.
The adults.
Yeah, instead of eating the leaves or the roots, the adult beetles literally cut the grass stems right at the soil surface.
Like a tiny chainsaw.
They essentially clear-cut the grass at the base. So you end up with all these sudden wilting dead spots, and it is entirely because the adults have severed the plant from its root system.
So what does this all mean for the yard itself? I mean, we know we have this diverse cast of characters down there, some chewing roots, some bulldozing the soil, some clear-cutting the stems.
Right.
How does that biological activity translate to the actual destruction you see when you walk out your front door?
It all comes back to the physics of the plant. By consuming the roots, these insects are systematically dismantling the grass's anchor.
The anchor.
And its primary mechanism for pulling moisture and nutrients out of the soil. When the root mass is drastically reduced, the turf's drought tolerance plummets to zero.
Wow.
Zero.
That is why the first symptom of a grub siege is often turf that looks pale, thin, or just entirely dormant, even if you know you have been irrigating it perfectly.
Because the water is there in the soil, but the grass simply has no roots left to drink it.
Precisely.
Which leads to the symptom that I think is straight out of a horror movie, the spongy turf.
Yes. The notes describe this phenomenon called spongy turf. The research defines a high damaging grub population as anywhere from 10 to 30 plus grubs per square foot.
Which is a lot.
I want you to just picture a standard 12-inch by 12-inch square of your lawn and imagine 30 of these plump, rising larvae packed in there, just chewing away at the foundational layer.
It is a staggering biological density. And when the population gets that high, the turf literally detaches from the earth.
Right. You can walk on it and it feels exactly like walking on a wet sponge or a waterbed.
It's very unsettling.
The ground just yields underneath your boots in this incredibly unnatural way. And the worst part is you can reach down, grab a handful of what looks like healthy grass, and peel the entire yard back like a loose rug.
Just roll it right back.
Just expose the bare dirt, and underneath, it is just a writhing mass of grubs. It is such a visceral, panic-inducing thing for a homeowner to experience.
It really is. But the spongy turf is often just the beginning. Because the damage rarely stops with the insects themselves. We have to talk about the secondary wave of destruction.
The wildlife buffet.
Yes, the wildlife buffet. Two local predators, a grub-infested lawn isn't a dying plant. It is an all-you-can-eat, highly nutritious buffet.
It's an open diner.
Skunks, raccoons, armadillos, and flocks of birds will zero in on that protein source. They will come into the yard, usually in the middle of the night, and aggressively dig massive holes to hunt the grubs.
So you wake up, pour your coffee, look out the window, and it looks like a rototiller was let loose in your front yard.
Exactly.
The grass is shredded, there are massive clumps of dirt thrown everywhere, and it is all because a family of raccoons was having a midnight feast.
Which brings up something I want to ask directly to everyone listening. What stands out to you as the bigger nuisance here?
Good question.
Is it the unseen biology of Ute-eating insects slowly starving your grass over the course of months? Or is it the sudden, explosive, and highly visible destruction of raccoons tearing your yard to pieces overnight?
It's gotta be the raccoons for most people.
In the professional world, it is almost always the wildlife damage that finally prompts a homeowner to seek help.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They tolerate the thinning grass, assuming it's just heat stress, until the skunks roll the lawn back like a carpet.
It's treating the symptom because it's louder than the disease.
Exactly.
And that brings us to the actual economics of all this, because this isn't just about neighborhood aesthetics. Replacing a lawn is brutally expensive.
Very true.
Sod costs a fortune. High-quality seed is expensive. The fertilizer, the irrigation bills, the sheer hours of weekend labor you put into it, lawn maintenance, is a massive investment of your capital and your time.
A severe grub infestation can wipe out years of that investment in a matter of weeks.
Just weeks.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, treating for grubs isn't merely about killing bugs. It is an asset protection strategy.
Asset protection. I like framing it that way.
Targeted grub treatments, when integrated into a broader agronomic program, actually boost the long-term health and resilience of the turf. By actively preserving that deep root system, you are making the lawn significantly less vulnerable to drought, heat stress, and weed pressure down the line.
So it's preventative healthcare for the property.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. When we look at the actual science of treatment, timing is absolutely everything.
Timing is critical.
There is this huge temptation to just run out to the big box store, buy whatever bag has a picture of a dead bug on it, and throw it on the grass the second you see a brown spot.
We see that a lot.
But the research lays out a highly specific calendar of warfare. Let's look at spring, roughly March through May.
Okay.
Spring is when I'm out there putting down pre-emergence, calibrating my irrigation, getting everything ready. Why shouldn't I just nuke the grubs while I'm at it?
You'd think that makes perfect sense, but biologically, spring is actually a terrible time to treat for grubs.
Really?
Yes.
A terrible time.
It all comes down to the life cycle and the physical makeup of the insect at that specific time of year. In the spring, the grubs that overwinter deep in the soil briefly move back up into the root zone to feed one last time before they pupate into adult beetles.
Okay, so they are present. They're up there.
Yes, they are present, but these are mature, late instar larvae. They have been growing and feeding for nearly a year. They are massive.
Oh, rice.
Their exoskeletons are thick, their fat reserves are huge, and their metabolisms are beginning to slow down as they prepare to pupate. Biologically, they are incredibly stubborn and highly resistant to standard chemical treatments.
Wow.
If you apply a product in the spring, it often barely phases them. You are essentially bringing a water balloon to a tank fight.
A water balloon to a tank fight. That's a great visual.
You are wasting money and introducing chemicals into the environment for a minimal kill rate.
Okay, so spring is a complete bust for treatment.
Pretty much.
That brings us to summer, specifically the June and July window. According to the research, this is the golden era for grub control. This is when the professionals do their best work.
Exactly. This is the summer preventative window. The key conceptual shift here is that you are applying the treatment before the damage occurs.
Before the damage.
And often before the eggs even hatch. During June and July, the adult beetles, the Japanese beetles and those flying June bugs, are mating and laying their eggs down in the soil profile.
So the product is just waiting for them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
By putting down a systemic preventative treatment at this time, the product bonds with the organic matter and the root system. When those eggs hatch, the new larvae are microscopic.
Tiny little guys.
Very tiny. They have extremely thin exoskeletons and ravenous metabolism.
Oh, I see where this is going.
The moment those highly vulnerable newly hatched grubs take their very first bite of a treated root, they ingest the control product and die almost instantly.
Instantly.
You're neutralizing the infestation before they have the physical capability to cause any structural damage to the lawn.
It is entirely proactive.
Completely.
But let's be real, life gets busy. You forget to book the lawn care company, or you go on vacation and suddenly it's late August.
It happens all the time.
You missed the golden window. The notes do offer a backup plan, though. The fall curative window, running from August through September. How does that differ biologically?
The fall curative strategy is entirely reactive. It is a cure for an active existing problem.
Okay.
At this point, in late summer or early fall, the eggs have hatched, and you have thousands of actively feeding young grubs in the soil.
So they're already doing damage.
Yes, they are still relatively small compared to the spring monsters, but they are positioned very close to the surface because they are aggressively stripping the roots to build up their fat reserves for the coming winter.
So they're actively destroying the lawn right then and there.
Yes. So instead of a long-lasting preventative, you use a curative treatment. These are fast-acting products designed to quickly knock down an active population.
Got it.
Because the grubs are still small and feeding heavily, they ingest the curative product rapidly. It halts the damage before they can grow into those massive, armor-plated spring grubs that are impossible to kill.
Unpacking all of this really highlights the vast difference between an amateur approach and a professional agronomic strategy.
It really does.
Like I mentioned earlier, the DIY urge is to just buy a bag of generic granules and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But when you look at the professional arsenal detailed in these sources, you start to understand why the DIY approach so often fails to get the job done.
It fails because DIY approaches usually rely on the wrong product applied at the wrong time in the insect's life cycle.
Timing again.
The professional approach is a highly calibrated three-pronged attack. First, they have access to commercial-grade preventative products.
And those are better than the store-bought one.
Much better. These are synthesized to offer a much longer residual efficacy in the soil. They don't just wash away after one heavy rain.
Oh, that makes a huge difference.
They stay active right through that entire critical multi-week egg hatching window.
And obviously the second prong is those fast-acting curative treatments for when a homeowner calls them in a panic because raccoons are currently tearing up the yard.
Exactly, the emergency response.
But my absolute favorite part of this research is the third prong of the professional arsenal, the biological options.
Ah, yes.
This is where it gets incredibly sci-fi. The sources specifically detail biological tools like milky spore and beneficial nematodes.
The biological options are a fascinating leap forward in targeted pest management. They allow professionals to suppress grub populations without relying solely on broad-spectrum synthetic chemistry.
Can we break down how milky spore actually works? Because the name sounds benign, but the mechanism is brutal.
It is literal biological warfare in the soil. Milky spore is a naturally occurring bacterium.
Okay.
When applied to the turf, it sits in the soil waiting for a grub to inadvertently ingest it while feeding on roots. Once inside the grub's digestive tract, the bacteria activate and begin to multiply exponentially.
Exponentially.
They replicate so aggressively that the grub's internal fluids actually turn a milky white color, hence the name.
And then the grub just drops dead.
It does, but it gets better.
Yeah.
When the infected grub dies and decomposes, it bursts open, releasing billions of new bacterial spores right back into the surrounding soil.
Oh, wow. Ready to infect the next generation of grubs.
Exactly. It creates a self-sustaining cycle of disease that targets the beetles, but it's completely harmless to humans, pets, and beneficial earthworms.
That is incredibly brilliant, and the beneficial nematodes are just as wild.
They are impressive hunters.
We are talking about introducing millions of microscopic predatory worms into the yard that actively hunt the grubs in the soil moisture, enter their bodies, and release a bacteria that melts the grub from the inside out.
It really showcases the sophistication of modern ecological management.
It does. But whether a professional uses a synthetic preventative, a curative, or a biological agent, the winning formula relies heavily on one final crucial element: irrigation guidance. How much water you apply and exactly when you apply it after treatment dictates everything.
That is the make or break step. The product has to be physically washed off the grass blades and pushed down through the thatch layer into the top inch of the soil where the grubs are actually feeding.
So if you just spray it and leave it...
If you don't water it in correctly, the sun breaks down the product on the surface and the grubs underneath are completely unaffected.
Wow.
You need the right product, the exact biological timing, and precise irrigation for consistent suppression.
It has to be a perfectly synchronized effort.
It really does.
So let's recap the main takeaways from our stack of research today. Springtime right now is the time to assess, not necessarily a time to spray.
Right.
You want to get out there and physically inspect your lawn. If you are noticing mysterious thinning, if you step on a patch and it has that unmistakable, unsettling, spongy feel underfoot,
The waterbed effect.
yes, or if you wake up to find local wildlife treating your yard like an all-night diner, it is time to consult an expert and plan a strategy.
And while the sources emphasize that excellent cultural practices like maintaining high mowing heights to encourage deep root growth and deep, infrequent irrigation can certainly help your grass tolerate minor environmental stress, they aren't a cure-all.
They can only do so much.
When you are dealing with a true high-density grub infestation, a targeted professional program is absolutely necessary. You simply cannot water or fertilize your way out of thousands of root-eating insects severing the grass from the earth.
You really can't. You can't outgrow an army that is eating your foundation. It requires a specific, scientifically timed intervention to protect the massive investment you have made in your landscape.
Which brings us to an interesting conceptual pivot.
Oh.
We have spent this entire discussion focusing on eradication, how to kill them, when to kill them, and how to protect the grass.
Right.
But this raises an important question, one that takes the data from these sources and zooms out to look at the broader suburban ecosystem.
Okay, I'm listening.
We established that grubs, despite being a nuisance to our manicured lawns, are a highly sought-after, dense protein source for local birds, raccoons, armadillos, and skunks.
A major food source.
So what happens to the neighborhood food web when we successfully and completely eradicate them from our properties?
Oh, wow.
By engineering the absolute perfect, sterile, grub-free lawn, do we inadvertently force local wildlife to forage in other, potentially much more disruptive ways around our homes?
Like getting into the trash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do the raccoons that can no longer find grubs start tearing into our trash cans or nesting in our attics instead?
That
Is a fascinating biological trade-off to consider as we try to balance having pristine personal landscapes with complex, hungry ecosystems they exist within.
That is a wildly fascinating thought to leave on. A mathematically perfect lawn might just mean a hungrier, more desperate neighborhood ecosystem pushing back against our boundaries.
Something to chew on.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you walk away with a totally new perspective on the invisible subterranean warfare happening right beneath your boots.
There's a lot going on down there.
Next time you walk across your grass, remember there is a whole world down there. Keep asking questions, keep observing your surroundings, and most importantly, keep learning. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Pain in the Grass podcast, sponsored by Lawn Pride of North Charlotte, Huntersville, your go-to name in turf care for homeowners and businesses seeking beauty, quality, and reliability, powered by family and fueled by passion. Until next time, make sure to take care of that pain in the grass.